get right to it. We're skipping the introduction because we only have 1 hour on this show. And we'll start with Tiberius. Introduce yourself.
Hey there, Tiberius Stargazer. I am the editor-in-chief for the EVE-NT website. I'm also an editor and writer for EVE News 24. And I'm a member of DICE's Destructive Influence in Northern Coalition.
As am I. He's my courtmate. And Rivra? Oh, that's my bad. Rivra, can you go next?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Rivra. I write for TMC and I do station trading.
Awesome. And we have Apothny with us.
Hey, I'm Apothny. I'm in Snickerdly and Pandemic Legion. I write for Crossing Zebras. I do AT commentary and hosting. I do stuff with EVE-NT and basically just show up wherever people ask me to talk about spaceships.
Awesome. It's perfect for you because this is going to be a Alliance tournament primer, since that's coming on in an hour or two. And lastly, we have a good friend, Core Blood Brothers.
Hey Matt, good evening. My name is Core Blood Brothers. I'm one of the CEOs for Volition Cold, longtime member of Provi Blog. Last week we went MBSI. We left Provi. We're setting up Pink Hatch now. Lots of drama, lots of kills everywhere. Pretty cool. Having a good time. Before that, CSM 2 times, and a big EVE fan in general.
Yeah, that's right. Former CSM member and all that. Great. Well, thanks, guys, for showing up. I was really looking forward to this show, except it's 5 a.m. for me, or it's pretty early. Now I know how you guys have felt when you were on that program. So, ouch. I don't know how you did it.
Yeah, I think longest I stayed up for the US edition was 5:15 in the morning.
Yikes. All right, let's get on with these topics here. The first thing I wanted to get to was the tribute war. Tiberius, how's it been going?
Hi. There's a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of interesting back and forths with this war so far. It's certainly been a lot more engaging looking at the strategy of it. But to head it all off, really, NC along with Pandemic Horde and a couple of other supporting people from Honor, I think, as well, occasionally PL, has been trying to invade the tribute region that's owned by CO2 Circular 2. We've made virtually no headway at all in the last 2 weeks, and it's just been a massive push from both sides to both defend the region and attack it as well. So it's been pretty interesting. Lots of interesting strategies, lots of interesting tactics.
Yeah, but this last battle was pretty. Actually, it was a very exciting battle. It's the. I would have to say there was a lot of brawling going on. People were dying on both sides. It looked like NC was killing them on both sides, but
yeah,
they had some Titans in tow. They were being used like sub-capitals. They were flying around with the sub-capital ships and kind of doomsdaying everything in front of the sub-capitals. Very interesting tactics.
Yeah, it was a fight that went on for somewhere in over 4 hours, 5 hours almost. It all kicked off at about 1800 on the Friday afternoon.
And it wasn't a lag fest for being that long, right?
No, it just kept going. But it wasn't in one system. The entire fight just kept sort of moving around to various different systems. NL 6 VTAC 7 was where the bulk of the fighting actually happened, where the majority of the fleets kind of sort of hit each other. I'll confess I wasn't in that one because I was kind of doing some stuff with the AT, which we'll be talking about later. But it was, from all accounts, a lot of heavy fighting, and it was very exciting on both sides.
Yeah, that's great. So let's move on then to Core Blood Brothers. If I can ask you, what's going on with you down there in the catch area, right?
Yeah. Well, we started half a year ago. We started moving away from Providence. We gave back all Providence systems and some border catch systems to create a buffer to make CVA feel more secure. We stayed NRDS, but lately we've been growing. We just came out of a war with Lumpy, and ties to Stainwagon more and more close. and came to the point where we wanted to see what we can do on our own. So we made that step, which caused a lot of drama because a lot of people see me or my tune as a hat figure for Profiblock, or the most known. So it was a bit of a drama, but in the end, friendship doesn't stop with a ticker or a banner or a rat standing. So we're good friends. We shoot each other in the face now daily. AAA of CVA is fencing off Try. They even dunked Try's capitals, and we just finished a nice war with Lumpy with several battles, one of 200 bill, insane fight, and now we're taking soft together with Steenwagen in the south a bit. So yeah, it's exciting. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So many regional conflicts. You talk about C2, the other wars. You see slowly a different Eve arising out of all of this. It's a pretty cool time, actually.
It was kind of
You're so old school the way you say shoot him in the face. So
you can do that. It's the song. Killing is a means of communication. So that's Eve.
Yeah. It's quite interesting from an outside observer, having followed everything that's been going on between CVA, Volt, and Lumpy, because it was dubbed, I believe, the to begin with, the refugee war, where obviously Delve was invaded by the Imperium. A lot of people got displaced from that, and Lumpy and a couple other groups ended up in Catch, or started arriving in Catch as a result, and that's where you guys got into direct conflict with them. Is that right?
Yeah, Lumpy never owned any SOF. Basically, they staged from Curse NPC and started endorsing us. A month in this fight, they hadn't won one timer. They hadn't won a system. We haven't lost one, sort of a stalemate. They lack the numbers, but they have their Gila fleet comp is absolutely top. They fly like a bow. Pro. The Alliance tournament was coming for them. I think both sides got a bit tired. Then Try suddenly came in. We were fighting in the south of Catch, and Try started with dreadnoughts and large capitals, started nuking our jump bridges in the north, which put my alliance at a two-front war. Also, you saw Steenwagen, who's been coming to our aid daily almost, had some other plans. They said, hey, we cannot keep this up. Then we wanted to also do the MBSI thing. I sat down with Alan, the CEO of Lumpy, and actually we had a nice talk. We had a good laugh. So I gave them the RNF pocket, and Steenwagen gave us 20 more systems in the other side of Catch. So it's a good deal for us. And it's nice to see how everybody spins it. Lumpy's been an insane enemy.
Yeah.
It's been awesome, and I rather have a good friend next door that is rat to me, that can provide content. We're actually sharing fits now, but it did pull us away from Provi and the NRDS thing. It wasn't we tried to find midways like NRDS and Provi and BSI elsewhere, and then we said, okay, we're gonna just make.
Oh my god, I can't even.
We're gonna make a decision here.
She's beautiful.
Would you say influences from Steenwagen and other places were, that was almost an indirect cause of why Volt decided to move away from Provi after so many years? Because you guys were like,
we are the big block in Provi block, yes.
Yeah,
but there was also, if you carefully read it on Eve 24, if you go down in the comments, there's always been Volt guys versus CVA guys, and I'm not blaming CVA. CVA has strict rules or has lived there for 10 years, and if you start to notice you don't follow the ideal anymore, or the structures that are in place, you can look at them, but they're not changing. So you have to look at yourself and make your own decisions. And it was not CVA kicking us out or we hating them. It was us looking at ourselves and realizing, hey guys, we're going in a different direction, and that's cool. And we're going to follow up on that. And there's no, if CVA gets attacked, CVA status costs, I think 1 hour after the MBSI. If CVA would get attacked tomorrow, they have my fleets forever.
Oh,
awesome. Yeah, people blame it on alpha clones, and alpha clones are a part of this break. But there's more. There's Steenwagon, of course, involved. There's us growing from 300 to 3,000 in alliance strength. There's a lot of things involved in that final decision.
Well, that's awesome. Thanks for getting us caught up there in that area. We'll move on now to, I just want to mention that Rorqual mining notes have come out, and also alpha clone details have come out from CCP. And I just want to mention them because they were covered in the Friday show for Talking Against Stations. We dedicated a couple hours to those. So unless you guys have something pressing you want to say about that, we can move on to NPE mining. Do you guys have anything you want to say about any of those?
I like on the clones. I like really to. I don't know if it was brought up in the other show. The way the CSM was involved in this. You can see in the writings from CCP that they made adjustments and changes, and they really listened to this CSM. And being in some CSMs that had a lot of issues, a big respect to both CCP and this CSM for being like this intermediate channel again. I don't know if everybody noticed what went on there. That's good for the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like when you read back the blogs that have come out and some of the extra notes that came out, a lot of the concerns that were brought up by the community were addressed in those notes and addressed in those dev blogs. When there's a big concern that's been brought up about a change, sometimes they don't get addressed. So I totally agree with that. The CSM has done really well. I think from a personal point of view, I disagree with the restriction on alpha clones and omega clones, but they have said that that's something that they will continuously review. But
in what way do you disagree? What way do you
disagree?
Well, as it stands, the restriction is going to be if you have an alpha clone, you can't run another client at the same time as it. That was the thing, and for me, that kind of like made me a little bit because mainly because I had this envision in my head that I could be doing things on my main tunes, and then I could actually, like, I don't know, create scouts or faction warfare orts or various other little bits and pieces to do other things as well on the side. So I'm kind of doing other bits and pieces, and then they've restricted that completely. I understand why they've done it, because they've done it under the fear of not fear, it's not the right word, but I guess the abuse of the mechanic, which allows people to create like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 alpha clones and then go out and do things and just steamroller into particular activities such as ganking or whatever. But I think not allowing you to run another client at all, where you got one with an alpha clone, I think that's probably a little bit too far, in my opinion.
All right. Well,
I'm not sure how enforceable that would be anyway, because say, for example, Caleb, my boyfriend, plays Eve, and he's not been playing for a while, so he comes back as an alpha clone, and Reaver is an omega clone, and we're both running on the same IP, of course, because we're running from the same address. So I'm not sure how it would be enforceable to say you can't have an alpha and an omega logged in at the same time.
Well, go ahead,
something I think where you're going to be limited probably by the number of PCs you own. In that if you own 5 computers at home, you will probably be able to run 5 accounts at once, but it's certainly more restrictive than, I don't know, like if I were still an FC in Faction Warfare, like I was a few years ago, I just have an alpha in every system with a station in Northern Faction Warfare space and just cycle through them watching fleets travel around. Like it's much more limiting to that. And CCP have done the CCP thing where they say, okay, we know that technically there's probably going to be some software or some bullshit where you can work around those of you that own 10 laptops because you're IT nerds running. If we find out that we're doing it, we will consider it a breach of the ULA and we will come after you. It's just like look, this is what we're going for. These are the rules. If you try to be a smartass about it, prepare to be destroyed.
Yeah, it's about intent. You always see CCP going after intent. They keep the rules broad and then interpret them to. They're not afraid to take on abuse, even if some people argue with the rules. It might be within if the intent is there. I've seen as a CSM how they detect some of it, and I'm like,
Mm.
wow.
Well, from what I've heard, they have a lot of data at their disposal, but
Yeah,
that's covered
yeah,
very well
absolutely.
on the Friday show. So if you need to get
Yep.
more information on that, go there, because we have other things that we want to cover that the Friday show won't cover. And the first of those is some more changes to mining, and that is NPE mining. So I'll let Reaver talk about this.
Yeah, one of the things they've got coming up in the November release is the first iteration of procedurally generated PvE. And this first iteration will be NPC mining fleets out in belts. We don't know too much about this at the moment, but we do know that there'll be NPCs mining in the belts, and they will be, as far as we know, taking ore out of the belts. They will be attackable as well, but they will have defense fleets with them. Yes, so it's a very interesting development so far.
So this is like a first step into the world kind of existing without players, and that things will be behaving out there in not routine ways. They'll actually be, their behavior will be very natural and evolving. So what are the kinds of things that you can expect to see if you attack these guys, for instance?
Well, they haven't expanded too far on that. They've just said that haulers will be hauling the ore away, and if they are attacked, they will call in reinforcements. So we're not sure what sort of reinforcements would be there, whether they mean Concord or whether it will just be rats for you to attack. But it's just their first step along many things that they want to add into this procedurally generated PvE.
One of the things they said, I believe, was that the ore that they actually devour actually goes away. It's like a sink. And are there going to be some problems with belts disappearing?
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine that the NPCs are going to be sucking up enough ore to empty a belt. I think that would be a bit broken. But they are going to be depleting ore, from what we know.
Don't you guys love that? It's like locusts on the on the farm or something.
Yeah,
I mean,
for HiSec it might. HiSec is of course a bit more farmed than, I mean, in Null you'll find plenty of places. For HiSec, I don't know how widely distributed it will be, so I don't know if it's gonna be an issue. Yeah.
I mean, one thing I like about this feature, I mean, obviously there's still a lot of unknowns about it because it's still going to be fleshed out exactly what can be done and what you can and cannot do. But it's kind of adding in an element to the game to give the world a bit more activity, in the same vein that games like Grand Theft Auto and things like that have a live and active world, because it gives you something to interact with. So even if you don't mind, you can actually just go around and hunt down these groups or something along those lines. It's something that you can plan your own activities about, have encounters and create your own stories without necessarily, while yes, we have a multiplayer game, which is at its core multiplayer game, for those people that don't interact too much with the multiplayer side, it might give them something to do to create their own stories. And I quite like that idea of just that extra sandcastle building element to the game.
And the question is, how far are they gonna drive this? We know from numbers that people who are solo venturing into EVE stay, like a player who goes to nullsec stays almost 4 times as long in the game if he joins a player alliance and he goes into null. And so he delivers 4 times like the pay to CCP than a guy in HiSec who loves what he's doing. So the question is how much effort or time you would want to put in something that most of us are not going to say, oh, it's nice, but we're never going to use it. And will you create a PvE experience that is sturdy enough to really pin players down in that part of EVE, or do we want them to move on to the thing, the nullsec fights and the low sec and wormholes?
Well, I think if you look at your average player's journey, I think there was it was a couple of years ago now, but I think CCP Rise presented a thing that showed how people sort of progress through the game. And if you get past that initial point and you learn sort of the basics, then the majority of people get into the PvE elements. Like they will choose a particular career that they want to do, like you do in any other MMO. And it's from there you start potentially building connections up with other people. So you doing that particular activity, you see someone on a regular basis. So, if you're out mining, you might see somebody comes to the same belt as you and is mining with you. And then one day you might start a conversation, and then it leads on from there. And then, a year or two down the line, those people end up generally going to nullsec. So if we're losing a lot of people in that process to the experience, I think giving an extra element to the game to help encourage those interactions and help encourage people to stick around longer to encourage those interactions is a good step.
Yeah, I agree. That's why the question, how big or how small do you need to form groups to take them down? Will they come in different sizes and levels of expertise? Then it becomes interesting indeed, like an incursion where you need to have a team.
Yeah, I think it's the PvE in EVE does very badly need revitalizing a bit, and I think this is a nice way to get it started. And one of the things they say in the CSM minutes is that they do aim for eventually these sorts of PvE things to have standings, having some impacts on them. So while the mining thing is very simple, NPCs just sitting in belts, I think it's if it works out okay, it could be a nice first step towards actually making PvE in EVE a bit more interesting than it is, because there's plenty of people who just run level 4 missions, and those things are boring as hell. So if there's an alternative to doing them, then it can't be bad, I think, for EVE.
It depends also how dynamic it is. How we've seen PvE, the AI has been very much improved. If you try to hit a sleeper or something, we've all been, a lot of us been nuked. CCP doesn't shy away from making kick-ass NPCs. I like that. This is a kick-ass game. So it should be hard.
Yeah, totally.
Well,
And
it's going to be interesting because the world is taking on a natural life of its own, which means you, as an explorer, you have more opportunities to see things and feel like there's a living ecosystem, as opposed to you're just trying to get to some place to do an act. It'll be things that can happen along the way. Because I think these things can call for help. And in faction warfare, we wonder if they'll be able to call, friendly faction players to fight for them as well. So you'd have player versus player based on something that happened with an NPC being attacked.
that'd be a good idea. Like, if you're in local and an NPC basically says to you on the militia channel, help, I need help in this belt or this site or whatever. So, you go, hey, there's a fight there.
Yeah, it might give you a chance to white knight some NPC of some sort, which, people will do.
I think ultimately it's all going to be about encouraging people to be in space longer and to encourage interactions with other people. And I think this is probably a good step in the right direction to start doing that.
Right. Okay, so is there anything else in that, Reaver, you wanted to mention?
No, I think that's most of it. I mean, we don't really know more. There's dev blogs due on this in the middle of October. So yeah, just waiting for those at the moment.
Yeah, there seems to be a ton of dev blogs coming through. Also, we do expect a dev blog on the new stations that are coming up, right? Or the new structures.
Yeah, that's the engineering complexes. They're due on Monday, I believe. That was what Falcon has said anyway. So we'll have to see if they turn up on Monday. But everyone's been waiting for those for, it feels like forever now. We haven't really had any information on them since last year.
This is the year with the least amount of dev blocks ever in EVE. Huh? If you there's a graph on the site, you can see the amount of dev blocks per year. This is the year with the least dev blocks ever.
The devlogs, in fairness, have been pretty dense. Like, there's been a lot of stuff in each devlog, whereas in previous years, some devlogs were like, "Hi, we're changing this from 100 to 120. Thanks, bye."
Or, "Hi, I'm new."
The mining one was 2,000, 3,000 words. I mean, it was a heavy old read, the mining one that came out.
To be fair. Also, Core, I want to point out, it's very big of you to say that the CSM is doing a great job and you really like the relationship that's being built. Considering you were on a previous CSM, and a lot of people compare this CSM to previous CSM. So I thought that was a pretty classy move, not to be self-conscious about it.
Yeah, but it is. My first CSM was filled with goons and the big power blocks, guys who've been at this for years. And when I saw the sheet last night, I almost realized, and I was tempted to type it somewhere, and I held back on it. I think CCP should look into limiting the amount of terms a person can do to two, and then give people or make sure a CSM is balanced. Because this CSM, everybody's saying, oh, they're newbies, they're new bros, everything. But look at it, how they work together, how they find each other, how they not on certain topics. There's no animosity. I've seen different things. If you look at Cyan, for example, who's so pissed off at goons that he left, he's out because of all the drama. And so, yeah,
Well,
this CSM needs a big cheer, but also
I don't think
the
Sion's
impact
pissed
of
off at
Falcon
goons.
there.
I think you meant CCP, right? 'Cause
Let's not discuss that here. There's news, of course. They made changes on the CCP side as well. So yeah, they deserve a big cheer, CCP and the CSM.
And the Pothney there would have been elected had he not dropped out, so he's practically honorary CSM member.
Well,
CCP also this time invited fucking everybody. Yeah, that's
Mm.
awesome. That is group building.
That's pretty
interesting.
good. I think that
to this day, I get mails of people asking me to do stuff for the CSM, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not on. I pulled out. I totally pulled out. When the data came through, Fuzzy Steve did a bunch of work with it, and then through Jin Tan, I found out that had I not pulled out, I would have been one of the permanent attendees. I think I would have been like third behind Hyde and Arith or something like that, which is like really, really cool and amazing and overwhelming. Which was, I thought I would have only barely scraped on, but like that was pretty insane.
Right. Well, anyway, we're sure you have a future if you want it in the CSM. Let me move on real quick to, we're going to do the AT tournament preview because that's coming on in just a few hours. And we'll talk about last weekend. We'll talk about this weekend. Just before that, I wanted to go back to Rivra, only that I forgot what it was I was going to ask you.
it's too early in the morning. You haven't had enough coffee.
I'm focusing on pressing this mouse hard enough to be heard. Anyway, stupid reason. Okay, so Tiberius, why don't you set this one up?
For the AT, so yeah, it's the second weekend of the AT. It is really, really exciting. There's lots of new faces. There is one big match in particular that's going to be coming up. Apophany has, this is off the back of sort of the coverage that Event did last weekend, of which Apophany hosted and did a fantastic job, I might add as well. I'm really, really proud of the NT team. But this weekend is going to be a good one. It's kicking off on the CCP stream, so that's Twitch/CCP at, I believe, 2:30 Eve time, with the first match at 14:55, and that's Fraternity versus Hard Knocks. So we have the loser brackets to begin with, and I'm loading up the brackets myself. But we have the loser brackets to begin with. There's 16 teams left in the loser brackets at the moment. Fraternity versus Hard 404, Band Apart versus Spectre Fleet, Phoebe Freeport Republic versus League of Online Master Pilots, aka Lumpy, Ministry of Proper Footwork versus Mercenary Coalition.
Well, you should say
Reloaded.
You should say who Lumpy is, though, because Lumpy is actually old Evoke, right? And they actually won the tournament.
That's right.
A few years ago, well, actually many years ago now. I think 2005.
Roots all the way back to Evoke.
I don't call Lumpy Evoke.
Predominantly
You don't?
who is from the old Camel team. And then a couple of his guys have been in one or two ATs before, and then there's a couple that haven't been in ATs before. So they've got a really good leader, very experienced leader who will have brought a lot of experience and knowledge and really good team designs. And then they've just got like a core of really solid pilots, not necessarily with a ton of AT experience, but enough that Lumpy are a really significant threat this year. And the losers bracket's actually really insane. Like there are matches in the losers bracket that you could expect in winners bracket, like end round.
Yeah, like Agony Empire with Vidra Reloaded. I still can't get over that name. It's brilliant. You know, those two facing off as well. They're over the years have been very, very good.
I mean, the winners bracket as well. Like pretty much everyone but one match, and I'm not going to say which one it is because that's mean. But, like all of those could be winners bracket grand finals. Like they just could be. This weekend is already insane.
Yeah, totally. Like, and I'm really that's the Velour Accords getting into the undefeated section of the winners bracket as well. I was really happy with that one. It was good to see those guys get up there as well, because
The
they're quite a
Moa
new
meta,
face
man,
there.
it's real.
I know, it's so good. So I'm really pleased. For me, obviously, being in NC, the big match I'm looking forward to is the PL versus NC one, which is currently the most betted on one on EveBet as well at the moment, with somewhere near 200 billion ISK bet on it.
Oh wow!
Oh.
It's-
You bet on
it's-
this one, didn't you?
Did I get on this one?
Yeah, you bet on this one, didn't you?
I did bet on this one. So
How much
NC
faith do you have in our team?
Oh, 400 mil. I also bet another 400 mil on us winning the tournament outright as well. So, which might give me a payout of 8 billion ISKs. That's our odds right there. So I hope the guys don't let me down. I'm looking forward to that one. What do you think? Any particular matches you're looking forward to, Apothony?
PLNC obviously because that's my team. Exodus Afterlife could be basically all the winners round matches, and then like we said, Vidra against whoever they're against.
Vidra.
Ministry of Inappropriate Footwear versus Mercenary Coalition should be good as well. Vidra Agony was that one.
That's the one. It should be a good one because Vidra are they kind of come from Hydra Reloaded as well, if I remember right.
Oh, kind of. So basically, there are some Russians in Hydra, and it's basically Lucy Liu and their crew. Like, if you remember, there was a video going around a few weeks ago of a guy in a Vargar, excuse me, who got hot dropped by Mercenary Coalition, ton of
Yep.
bombers, and the Vargar soloed them. That's Lucy Liu. That's the guy, one of the main guys in Vidra. It's basically a Russian crew of really good PvPers. They've got some of that Hydra heritage, and that's one of the really interesting things about this year. That the Hydra Reloaded, then Warlords of the Deep, and the Camel Empire, kind of very focused, experienced group full of a lot of solid players, have really distributed into a fair few different teams, and we've seen a lot of team reorganizations. We from Volta, for example, is another one where the core of the old Tri team left Tri and formed a new team that's left Tri a little bit out in terms of performance this year. But one of the things that Elisa said, and a lot of old school AT guys have said, is that over the past 4 years or so, it's been really a lot harder for the old school top teams to stay where they are. Like back in 86 and 7, you just rolled whatever you want until the final weekend. Whereas now there are so many teams that are good. Like I think Elise said that if Test are not the best AT alliance in the game. They're like really solid mid-tier. Test are a good AT team. If they'd taken part in like 85, 86, 80, they just would have won instantly, easily with the amount of time they put in. Like the stakes of the Alliance tournament are really higher than they've ever been in terms of player skill.
Yeah, the quality of the matches have been really good this year. And a lot of them have been pretty close. And there's been a few upsets, like for example, Test getting knocked out in the second elimination round. You know, but the team this year was good. They had a good team. They had a solid team.
I didn't know Test got knocked out.
Yeah, they knocked out.
I was going to have one of their tournament members on today. Glad I didn't invite him.
Oh, he's got plenty of time now.
And they lost to two teams that you really wouldn't expect them to lose to. Like Test, for ages were like a really, really solid team. Like even innovative, you could say, in the meta with their distributed Tinger. They lost to Fraternity, which is one of the Chinese groups. And then, they also lost to Northern Coalition, which is fair enough. NC Dot
Yeah.
are really freaking strong this year.
But even then, that was a close match as well. That was, we up until about 5 minutes into that match, it could have gone either way.
Yeah, like,
It could have gone towards
NC
Test,
Dot
or it could have gone to NC.
have had one hell of a bracket of like proving themselves. They started off with White Legion, which was like a new name group of French guys. Like, sure, Northern Coalition win. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. They then beat Test, and you're like, okay, Test are pretty solid team. Like, NC Dot, good on you. Then NC Dot beat Lumpy, who many people were predicting, including myself, to be like one of the top 4 teams this year. And now they're up against PL. Like, if NC Dot beat PL, like, alarm bells, everything, like, all the sirens, air horns, everything. Like,
I was thinking the same thing. If NC beats PL, then they've kind of arrived at a new level for their reputation. I already think it's kind of an era of Northern Coalition right now, because the last, say, 4 months of fighting, NC, and even in World War B, the last year of fighting, NC has kind of brought the numbers and brought the power with all the massive titans and super capitals and stuff. They really are something to be reckoned with in the game, but they haven't had that prestige yet. Yeah. Oh, I belong to NC, and so does Tiberius.
So we're slightly biased.
Yeah, so maybe we're a little biased. But
the thing about NC, right, is that obviously very tied to PL, but when PL really brings it to a fight, they have some level of subcap fleet, and then if they drop all the fucking caps, right? But then NC Dot, they will bring all the fucking caps, but still have a full a full subcap fleet, and I believe that the NC Dot supercap fleet is larger at PL's at this point, and PL maintains kind of its place in the relationship, not through numbers, but because I think the roster of FCs and people doing stuff is a little deeper. Not saying that NC Dot don't have incredible people, but I think that, to my knowledge, PL's just has more of them.
PL seems to be good at instigating things that NC can then join in and capitalize on. That seems to be some part of their relationship. But yeah, PL has more maybe FCs. I don't know. NC's getting a lot of NCs. But one thing NC has lacked is tournament prestige that PL has. PL has the game. They have it locked up in the game, and they have it locked up in the Alliance tournament. NC has never had the Alliance tournament. So, well, that's not true, because NC is formed from the ashes of Bob, and Bob was the first dynasty that won the first 3 Alliance tournaments. So I guess if you want to look at it that way. But this is the first time.
Players are still there, yeah.
Yeah, the first time NC is really doing it.
Several good 20 dudes. For example, they absorbed DHB Wildcat, who wasn't necessarily, the top guy on the Warlords team, but being on the Warlords team at all, it exposes you to so much experience, intelligence, that you can't not learn a lot and be a solid member for any team after that. He also brought with him a big pool of AT ships, and if you really want to get in the top rounds, you do need to have availability of uniques. Not that NC Dot didn't have that before, because NC Dot are not known for being the poorest alliance in the game, so they could certainly afford as many AT ships as people were willing to sell them.
Well,
how many hours would you say one of the, let's say, the top 4 team invest before a tournament?
Oh, many hours.
If you get a number, what would you?
I know the NC team has been training 2-3 times a week, every week, for at least 3 hours a go since February. So they've been putting a lot of time. So we're talking hundreds of hours.
A few 100 hours per player.
Yeah, it's been put into it, and it's literally a case of, you guys are training, so off they go and they do it. And there's quite a lot of them. There's full roster and support as well. And I think PL is I think I was having this discussion. I can't remember who I was having this discussion with the other week, but I was having a discussion with someone from PL, and they said that their AT guys put in a similar amount of effort as well.
Yeah, the smaller groups have been doing the same thing. They've been doing 3-4 hour sessions 3 times a week since April or so. They're quite pleased that it got pushed back a bit from when it was originally going to be on, because it's given them more time to practice.
But on top of that as well, CCP released a Thunderdome server, which I found out about first off at FanFest, and it's basically a pet project of Logibro that he's kind of take on and see this done. And it's basically a server that has all the Alliance tournament tools built into it. So all the things to start the matches, the boundary violation stuff, the arena setups, everything you need is in there. And I think that's probably gone a long way to help a lot of the teams as well, because you could sign up for that, you could get on that, you could spawn all the ships you want with the tools that you had, you could set up matches as if you were setting them up in the game, you could ban ships out as you would do in the real tournament as well. And I think that's been a massive bonus to a lot of the teams as well.
Yeah, it's like the Thunderdome is something that 80 players have like dreamed of for years and years and years and years and years, and like it's also made like watching other people practice a lot harder. Like last year, like there was literally a YouTube playlist of every team practicing that we could watch all their practices of, because spying was so easy. I mean, it wasn't easy; it required a crap ton of effort, but it was a lot more doable than this year. It's added a lot of security. It's added a lot of ease of access, of not having to jump through a lot of hoops to be able to practice, which means that the effort and burnout on things you don't want to put effort and burnout on has been much lower. Like it's one of those things which we've seen in Eve design across the board, where the complexity and difficulty is being removed from the UI and interfacing the game at all, and is where it should be in the skill and the spending time actually playing the game.
Well, can we, like, for people who are coming to Eve for the first time and people who will look back on this program in a few months after they arrive for the first time as an alpha clone, can we talk about like what the Alliance tournament means to Eve?
So the Alliance tournament is essentially Eve's main kind of competitive scene, as in, you have Sovnol, which is in itself, a competitive thing. Alliances going against each other, but this is a specific ruled format. So it's more equivalent to a more modern Eve sport in some ways, in that you've got a specific set of rules, and there are specific matches with specific time limits and certain boundaries and all that kind of thing. It's essentially who are the best pilots, who are the best theory crafters within these defined boundaries.
It's a bit like I think it's a Champions League of Eve.
Yeah. And the amount of money that gets thrown around in this, is, as far as Eve terms, it's basically like the Formula One levels of budgets. Like huge amounts of ISK is spent on this tournament every year, just for the prestige of winning. If you do win, you get a lot of that money back because the prizes are amazing.
You get like what, 5 trill if you win, effectively.
Yeah, I mean, you get 50 of the cruisers, the special one-off cruisers, which sell for 100, maybe 120 billion ISK each. And they're really, really desirable this year, because I can easily see that this year's Alliance tournament ships being used in next year's ones as well. But it's a huge prestige thing. It's a huge
But
in any way.
if you're a new player, how many of these players are like, let's say one? I think nobody in there is 1 or 2 years old in Eve, right?
I was, when I flew for the first time with Waffles, I was 2 years playing the game. I think actually it was more like a year and a half.
So, a question why I'm asking is, why is it appealing? Because you're mentioning the new alpha clones. Are they gonna look at this and like, are they gonna completely ignore it and say, okay, that's old Eve guys stuff?
You're pretty much never going to see an alpha clone take part in the Alliance tournament.
No, I mean watch it. Even interest in watching.
Yeah, whether they'll be
maybe it depends on how good the show is. Like a lot of the things you have to do as a commentator is make it friendly to non 80 nerd audience, because like even the Alliance tournament itself, if you didn't focus on that, it wouldn't just be only understood by Eve, it would be only understood by a very small percentage of the Eve community. Like how in like League of Legends you might have everybody who plays League even casually can kind of get what's going on, and then the commentators have to really explain it for people who don't play League that are just watching. In EVE Online, it's you do the high level analysis for the EFT nerds and the AT nerds, and then you are kind of like doing your best to explain for people who already play EVE, who already understand to some extent the mechanics and the spatials of EVE and everything work, and you're kind of explaining it to them. That alone, people have never touched, seen, heard of the game before.
Would you say that CCP might for next year look into an alliance tourney for Alpha Clones?
I don't know if they will. I think that's
Is that like
something
midget
that
fighting or
they
something?
may rely on players to do. Like, I would be very surprised if EVE-NT don't have an Alpha League at some point.
Yeah, I think the NT staff have kind of thrown the idea around, but we haven't really like said anything for definite because we got our own championship coming up. Which before the announcement of Alpha Clones, because we've got the championship coming up towards the end of this year. Before the announcement of Alpha Clones, that was the entry level because we have the lower class league and the upper class leagues. And the upper class leagues has a whole bunch of well-known names, like people from the Tuskers and things like that in it. But the lower class leagues were always kind of, if you wanted to have a go, you could have a go. So that was the original intention for us, was to get people into Alliance tournament without actually having to go through the formality of the big games. It's just try and get a taste of it, see whether it's something they can do. And I think certainly with skill injectors and things like that, the Alliance tournament and these other tournaments have gotten a lot more accessible. Because and then it's all down to the budget of your team. In the AT, skill injectors and things like that will not really be an issue at all. Whether it be appealable to alpha clones or people that have joined the game as alpha clones, I don't know. To be honest, I think the AT struggles is the same as EVE in general. That you do need a base level understanding of how the game works in order to understand what's kind of going on. And while the commentators do a great job, a lot of the commentators do a great job in trying to make it as accessible as possible, you do still need that level of understanding to know what's going on screen. So will it entice alpha clones? I think people will probably look at it out of curiosity because they're plugged into the environment and they might get like the news update and the pings inside the game saying, hey, the Alliance tournament's starting, can watch it on here. But will it cause them any difference to stick around? I don't know.
That's just the excitement.
CCP looked at stopping the Alliance tournament last year. It was a very interesting debate, actually. Because of the amount of time CCP claims are putting in 500,000 hours, and it only appeals to, like you guys say, that a high-end population of this game. But they chose to run it because that has that much prestige.
Yeah, well, I think that as they're going to be feeding new players towards faction warfare with the new player experience ending up there, I think that alpha clones will maybe be getting more interested in it. But the problem that I see with an alpha clones tournament is that you would have to have so many restrictions, because as an omega clone, I can have +5s and then turn into an alpha clone. And I've still got my +5s being functional. Which would obviously give me a bit of an advantage in an alpha clone tournament. So you'd have to restrict all those sort of things.
Well, we'd have access to the Thunderdome, right? So we could easily say EVE-NT ran a alpha clone tournament, that CCP could set up a thing in the banning tool for alpha clone tournament rule set, and like all the normal ban pop-ups. This person has +5 implants. They may not fly. Blah 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 blah. All that kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think that's built into it, isn't it? I think that sort of stuff is already built into the Thunderdome server. Yeah.
I think it's fair to say that interest in the Alliance tournament this year is I think bigger than it's been for quite a long time. I think that the addition of player-run tournaments like EVE-NT amongst others, I mean, if you look at the stream numbers we got on the first weekend, just the first weekend of the tournament, we were nearly breaking 7K, I think, at one point. And like when I did my
6,700 was the highest.
So we were kissing 7K. And, the first year I did
the
AT, I casted it at 80-12. That was nearly finals weekend numbers. Like, I think that the presence of the Alliance tournament and of EVE tournament play is more widespread and kind of present in the minds of the average EVE player than it's ever been. I'm not going to try and ever say that EVE 80 or whatever is going to be like a mainstream esport. I think that that's not a good goal. But I think that having the 80 more present and more entertaining to a wider majority of the player base has been achieved and is continuing to be achieved, and I think that's really cool, especially as the 80 is something that I personally really love.
Well, the thing I was getting at was that AT is different than other tournaments because we've seen other tournaments with, say, a better concentration of fighters, right? Because they can come from anywhere, form their own teams, call themselves whatever they want, and get into the tournament. So you get your, really good friends together. But the AT kind of has the branding of the Alliance tournament on it. So it is, like Core said, a Champions League for alliances, which means that people who don't even participate can watch it just to cheer for their team, and I think that's why it's bigger than any of the other ones. It's also been around longer.
Yeah, and the voting and the debating, of course, on stuff also makes it popular.
I think
the stories are really what gets people that aren't really into it, and that's one of the reasons I try and do the team summaries each year, even though this year they're really fucking late, and that's my bad. Like, I think that instead of it being two random names, you have people being able to look at, okay, who are this alliance? Where are they from? And EVE, oh, they own Sov right next to me. I hate them. I've been warring against them. Boo, you lose in the alliance tournament. Or hey, these are our friends.
Yeah.
You guys win in the alliance tournament, and there's that more personal connection.
Reavra?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think as well, the fact that there was a State Raven in one of the first matches this year made people want to watch the rest of it to see what else was going to be brought out that was in that level of expensive ships.
Well, that's always a big deal. But I think in Alliance tournaments of the past, you had really expensive ships brought out, and they created a ton of drama. I think Thoric from the Guiding Hand Social Club, who will be, Torix will be actually speaking at EVE Vegas, was somebody that would trot out very expensive ships in tournaments and create a lot of fanfare for stuff like that. But yeah, those are, if you watch those videos, you go back, they're huge.
But the State Raven is a bit beyond most of the. It's beyond most of the average expensive ships like the Etana or whatever, because there is only 4 of them in EVE and 2 of them are owned by one person.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't realize that. And actually, somebody brought that out in a tournament?
Yep.
PL fielded it first round against Iron Armada.
Well, that's going to be really insulting to Iron Armada, doesn't it?
Alliance picked it as their flagship, I think 1 or 2 years ago. And to my knowledge, at the time, they did not own one.
They had high hopes, I suppose. Well, I was saying that
that's quite fun.
If you're bringing something like that up,
3.5 trill.
Something that's priceless, or well, actually, it's not priceless. It's 3.5 trill. That to me says something about their confidence over who they're fighting. I would take it as an insult.
Especially for it was for the first match, so it wasn't it wasn't one that was being covered on Apothene's stream. It was over on the other ISD stream, so it wasn't even a big match that people were going to be watching. So that was part of the shock with them bringing it out as well. It wasn't for the final or anything.
Oh, interesting. Iron Armada, incidentally, was took a little bit of Sov when Sov changed up in the northern area. I think it was it wasn't Outer Ring, but it was Cloud Ring, I think. And they were they were taken out by Pandemic Horde, so there's a little bit of a grudge there anyway. So it's a little insult on top of insult. Yeah, all right. Well, we got about 3 minutes. Anything else you guys want to say before we go?
No, I mean, other than
give us your picks. Who's going to be the fights to watch today?
Oh, the fights to watch today. Well, PL and MC, obviously. Yeah, like everybody in the winners bracket. Which is PL,
Vidra, Agony, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that the Abandapart Spectre Fleet one would also be interesting to watch, because Abandapart have actually been quite good in the, also better than people have expected in the previous ones.
Who are you
going to watch? Spectre bring another battleship only setup.
I'm going to watch Lumpy.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah,
you want to watch Lumpy because they're German like you?
No. Oh, hey, I'm Dutch.
Oh,
But
that's right.
if
Classic mistake right there.
if Lumpy gets kicked out, they come attack us again. So they need to stay in.
Keep them busy. That's
Oh,
right.
for me, if we have 1 minute,
Yeah.
interested to know from the other guys. At the moment, if you look at the alpha clones coming, you look at jump fatigue, you look at all the changes CCP is making. You see on the news sites, you see fights of alliances that I've never heard of. I do see EVE breaking up in way more smaller fights, regional, 3 regions together, 10, 20 different conflicts all over the map. And I really think that is good for the future of this game, because I want to play this game in a few years. And I think I see CSM and I see CCP making decisions that are bold. And I like this about EVE, even though we trash like Fuzzy Soulfan, of course, we've all bitched about it, but there is a thought behind it, and more you see that take shape. And I love that CCP is fighting for EVE. That's cool.
There is a thing to be said for, it's kind of similar to the jump changes, which they mentioned at FanFest, as having the design result into what happened in game because of those changes is absolutely what they were looking for. But the feel of what they did completely sucked.
Yeah.
So it was
That's
an
right.
execution
Exactly.
success, a experience fail. And now that they've kind of got the game where they, in a direction they're going, they can now look at, okay, how do we make this feel better now that we've got the result that we wanted?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, they're
Totally,
putting
totally.
DPS a bit back in favor of Entosis now, which is awesome.
Well, awesome.
But I hope I'm just wondering if you guys agree with that you see CCP making that change for this game.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Thanks very
Man,
much.
thanks for having us.
Yeah. Thanks very much for everybody that's joined us. Okay, Tiberius, last thing.
One last thing. Make sure that if you are in the Brisbane area or Toronto, Canada, to check out the 2 meets that are happening there. The Brisbane meetup is at the Buffalo Bar. That's on October 15th. And the Toronto meetup is at the Good Game Bar on October 16th. So make sure you check those out if you're in this area.
Come to my Alliance Tournament Finals viewing party on October 16th in Birmingham, England.
Yes, you got the segue. Nice.
Terrific.
Yay.
Oh, okay. So,
But yeah,
all right, we'll assume that everybody's finished talking because I need to wrap up the show at 7 o'clock. We got to make room for Bill and Mill that come up next. I think it's a husband and wife team to play games, and it should be fun to watch. Some of you guys are going to be peeling off to watch the Alliance tournament later on. And we like this hour. We'll be doing it again. Thank you, Tiberius, Rivra, Pothny, and Core for showing up. We'll probably have other guests on as these shows continue. We'll do a bunch of different things and talk about different topics. This is Talking in Stations, the European edition, because it's friendly for their hour, not so friendly for mine. But the sun did rise behind me, as you can see, while I did the show. So we'll see if we can stretch this into 2 hours down the road. But it looks like it did very well for us. We got 120, 125 people viewing live, and that's great. We like the participation. So thanks again, everyone, and we will see you next time on Talking in Stations.